Alright, everybody, what's going on? I'm getting ready to start the show. It's the Unknown Files, case number 16. Can you believe we're on 16 already? Number 16. It's going to be a fun show for you tonight. Alright, let's see. I got everybody connected there. I got everybody connected on Facebook. And I think we're good to go. Alright, is that right? We good to go? Yep, good to go. What's up, Mike? All right, let me go ahead and let's start the show. You guys ready? Let's start the show. I'm ready. Let's go. All right, welcome to this week's edition of the Unknown Files show. File number 16 tonight. We're going to be talking about the big fella. We got a couple nice guests lined up. We're going to be talking to Tim Halloran from the Bigfoot Influencers. Mike, what's going on? Hi, Susan. Good to see everybody on Facebook Live. And we're going to have Marc Myrsell on. We're going to be talking about the 1924 attack on Mount St. Helens. So let me go ahead and see if I can get Tim here. And I'll get Tim on the line, and we'll go from there. Show's brought to you in part by good friends out at the Revelton Distillery. And they are one of our sponsors that keeps, they're the official spirits of the Unknown File show. So if you haven't tried that rye whiskey yet, they got another barrel tapped coming up here in the next couple of days. You can get some of that. Go down to Revelton and Osceola, tell everybody we sent you. All right, Tim, I got you there. Tim, you can hear me?
I can hear you, Dan. How are you tonight?
I'm good. I'm going to try and put you on hold and get a hold of Marc. So hang on, all right?
Beautiful. Okay, right, sounds good.
You hang on. How was the tuna?
Oh, wonderful.
Hang on. All right, we got Tim. Let's see if I can get Marc on now. I tried to do this before, but everybody's busy. Dun, dun, dun. Live radio, you got to love it. Got to love it. Marc?
This is Marc. I am alive, and I'm here.
Yeah. I'm good, man. How are you? This is Outdoors Dan from the Unknown Files show.
Hey, Dan. Thanks for having me on. How you doing?
I'm good, and we're live on the air. I was trying to call you a little bit ahead of time, so I just want to let you know we're live. Hang on, I'm gonna connect Tim on here, so we're all on together. Okay?
Gotcha. Okay. I'm ready.
All right. So I hit the old merge button, and I should have everybody there. Tim, are you there?
I am here.
Marc, you there?
I am here. Marc Myrsell, 123. I'm here.
Oh, that's awesome. He even does his own identifier.
How are you?
Fantastic.
All right. This is going to be a fun show. Marc, I had Tim on a couple, like a month or so ago, and this has been something that I'm 59, and I've been doing, following this stuff since I was a kid. I love the legends and the lore growing up, and what we're going to talk about tonight was one of my absolute favorite stories or legends during my when I was 12, 13, 14 years old. I mean, we're going all the way back to 1924. But I appreciate you coming on. This is going to be a lot of fun for me personally.
Yeah, heck yeah. So, Dan, I am 58, about to turn 59, actually on Friday. And so I'm all with you. This was a seminal event that really, I think really influenced a lot of young people of our generation. I hate to use that term, but this was one of the Bigfoot classics, right? That really grabbed us when we were like 11 or 10 or years old, because it was recreated in pop culture and in a bunch of docudramas and stories. And it's one of those great stories that really grabs your attention. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, that's awesome. I want to say hi to Tony and Mike and Susan. Thank you guys for watching us on Facebook Live right now. Tim is the author of the Bigfoot Influencers. He's got a couple more volumes coming out soon. Go check those out wherever you can. Tim, thanks for coming back on the show, buddy. I appreciate you doing that for me.
You're most welcome. I'm glad to be here. Glad you had me back.
Well, always have you back, man. That's awesome.
And you got one of my favorite people here on the show. So you guys are going to enjoy Mr. Myrsell here.
Yeah. Yeah, and so Mark, you and I are about the same age, so we grew up. I'm glad I was born when I was born because I grew up in a great time. The cartoons were awesome. The food was excellent. You could get out there and hunt and fish, and I'm very blessed to grow up in the times that I did. And part of that was when In Search of, and William Shatner was doing his thing on the unknown, and the $6 million man. Who did not love the $6 million man when he had Bigfoot chasing him? Come on, guys.
Yeah, I gotta say, I was more enamored with the $6 million woman. I gotta say,
Well, who didn't like
but
Lindsay? Yeah, who didn't like Lindsay?
yeah,
What was her name? Lindsay Wagner or whatever? Come on.
Lindsay Wagner.
Yeah. Yeah, there's yeah, Tim. There's two. When Mark and I was growing up, you know what the big discussion was, right?
Between Charlie's Angels and the Bionic Woman.
No, it was either are you a Mary Ann guy or a Ginger guy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. All right, so
Same argument with Charlie's Angels though too.
yeah, well, no, I have nothing wrong with Farrah Fawcett. She was awesome. So, all right, so let's get back to the Squatchy stuff. 1924. I can't remember what book I read, but it was the Fred Beck story, and there was 3 or 4 stories that really gravitated or fascinated me when I was younger about Bigfoot and encounters. One was Fred Beck with Ape Canyon, which what we're going to talk about. The other one was the gentleman up in Canada. He was a miner and he got kidnapped. Albert, what was his name, Tim?
Osman.
Osman, thank you. That's a fascinating story too. And but this Fred. I don't think I've ever read of another thing that happened like what happened with these gentlemen up in Mount St. Helens in 1924. Mark, how did you first hear about this?
well, it was because I grew up. Dan, you and I just grew up in the right, like you said, the right place at the right time. I think that where I first heard about it is that I have 3 older sisters, and they had moved out of the house, and one of them had left behind their 8 or 9 inch black and white TV, and it was then mine, living with mom and dad by myself. And I remember on the Late Late Show, one of the greatest recreations of the Ape Canyon incident was Sasquatch Legend of Bigfoot. I believe it was 1976 when it first came out, and there is a good about 6 or 7 minute segment in that movie where they do a recreation of the 1924 Ape Canyon incident. And I remember as a kid, 1 in the morning watching the Late Show, never forget these dark, shadowy figures hurling huge rocks down onto the terrified miners in their cabin. And the thing is that, I grew up in the right place in the right time, and I've always been very, very inquisitive about the unexplained, put air quotes around that. And so I always remember that image of Sasquatch Legend of Bigfoot. But it wasn't until I got back into purposefully researching the Ape Canyon incident that I was like, oh yeah, that was that movie when I was 10 years old. I remember that now. That's where I first heard about the Ape Canyon incident was the recreation of Sasquatch Legend of Bigfoot.
Yeah, need to say hi to Jeff real quick and Mark James. How you doing, guys? Thanks for watching tonight. Um, you know, Mark or Tim, I don't think. We hear about people having rocks thrown at them. I've heard that about Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kentucky, and the Pacific Northwest, down in Florida. Doesn't matter. People say that phenomenon exists where they'll be just fishing or hiking, and all of a sudden they'll have a rock whiz by them, and there's nothing there. And I've heard that I don't know how many times, but I don't think I've ever heard of anything where they've had these things throwing boulders, and and there was multiple witnesses in this. There was, if I remember right, I looked it up real quick. Fred Beck, Gabe Leffler, John Peterson, Marion Smith, and Smith's son Roy. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's several witnesses that they all were there when this happened.
Actually, that is correct. And there were a couple, at least 2 other miners who had been helping with that mine. The mine was not long. The mine work was not long lived. It only lasted about 2 years or so. basically until the miners were driven off. There were a couple of other miners helping them, but they weren't there at the time. Although in doing the Ape Canyon research, I was able to meet an older woman who said that it was her grandfather's brother, her great uncle, who was actually maybe a sixth miner who was there, but he worked very, very hard to omit his name and himself from the whole story in 1924 for fear of ridicule. But anyway, the point being, Dan, is that you're right. There were multiple witnesses over the course of many, many days. It wasn't just a singular incident on the evening of Thursday, July the 10th, 1924, that was the Ape Canyon incident. There were many, many other encounters with this large hair-covered creature up on Mount St. Helens prior to that, from again multiple witnesses of the miners who were working up there. So that's one of the fascinating things. This was just not a one-off incident with a singular witness. There were multiple witnesses. The other thing too that you have to keep in mind is that most of the miners of the story were all related. They were all family members of one sort or another, and they had in Kelso Longview, the nearby town where they lived, these folks had a very, very sterling reputation in town. These guys were known as hardworking guys, very, very square, hardworking loggers and mill workers. And basically, if they said that something happened, you can count on it. If they said they were going to do something, you can count on it. So suddenly, after July of 1924, they're coming back with these fantastic tales of being attacked by mountain devils, of these large hair-covered creatures, 7 feet tall, attacking them and attacking their cabin. So a lot of the family members and the general public had a hard time rectifying that. These guys were known as just very, very solid, good guys, but they were coming back with these fantastic tales.
So Mark, before we talk about the whole attack and how long it lasted and the conclusion and everything, what was it? You said that things were happening before. What were they noticing when they first went out there and set up camp and started to work? What was happening they couldn't explain?
Right. At first, they had laid claim to the Vanderwhite mine, the Ape Canyon mine, in 1922. And at that time, they were purposefully looking for gold. Marion Smith was one of the eldest, and he knew there was gold up on Mount St. Helens, which there is.
Yeah.
So they were up there looking for gold. They laid their claim. In 1922, they were just tent camping on the west side of Pumice Butte. And it's less than a quarter of a mile away from their mine, that getting up and over the butte is quite arduous and frankly quite dangerous. So they were just tent camping. In 1922 and into 1923, before they built their cabin right next to the mine, they would hear these high-pitched whistling sounds coming from a ridgetop in the dead of night, and then all was quiet. And then from the other ridge line, there would be an answering call, and these high-pitched whistling sounds would go back and forth, back and forth. At one point, I believe it was in 23, when they were still tent camping for the season, Leroy went down to wash dishes at a small sandbar near a creek, and he goes back to the tent, and he's like, "Come on, you guys, you got to see this." And he brings the guys over to the sandbar, and there's a singular large print in the sand, which appears to be a human footprint, except that the fact that it's extremely large, about 16 to 17 inches long.
Wow.
In the spring of 24, well, in the fall of 23, they decide that when they come back for the season, in the spring of 24, they're going to build a cabin right next to the mine. The assays on the gold were actually quite good. They were getting good gold out of this mine. We're going to build next spring. We're going to build a cabin right next to the site, hold our tools, hold some dry goods, just while we're gone for the winter. And when they came back in 24, that's what they did. A seminal event was the very first one, just before the 4th of July. Marion Smith and Fred Beck were going for water at the spring about 75 feet away from the cabin, and they see this large hair-covered creature peeking out from behind a cedar tree. And it's like, they were kind of like getting to be a little keyed up. They see this creature. Fred Beck takes 3 shots at it, and the word was that you could see the bark skinning from the cedar tree from Fred's bullets. And Fred takes 3 shots. They go down there. There's no blood. There's no fur. There's no nothing. And while they're standing there by the cedar tree, they can see this large hair-covered creature walking up the draw up on the other side. Leroy Smith, after they get back from the 4th of July, is at the cabin. The other guys are in the mine at the time, and he has brought back water from the spring. He hears something in the brush, and he turns around, and there's this big bruiser there. Leroy takes a shot at it because all of the miners were ordered by Marion Smith. You don't leave camp without being armed. They were very concerned at this time. Leroy takes a couple of shots. The creature turns around and goes back into the brush, seemingly unfazed by the bullets. This is a very limited topographic area. Maybe Leroy was like 50 or 75 feet away. Then on Thursday, the creature comes out again. This is later on in the day. All the other miners are in the cabin. Leroy's coming back from the spring again, and there's this big creature. Leroy takes a shot. The rest of the guys inside the cabin hears the shots, come boiling out of the cabin. Marion Smith reported in newspaper reports in 1924 that he estimated about 16 rounds went into this creature. Fred Beck took the last shot, and when he took this last shot at this creature, the creature he took the bullet and he either scrambled down the slope into the canyon, or he fell and tumbled into the canyon. At that point, the guys are in the cabin, and they're like, you know what? This is nuts. This is really, really bad. In the morning, we're going to gather up everything and we're going to leave. And it was that night that all hell broke loose for the attack.
Okay. Hey, need to say hi to Anita, Joe, Roger up in New York. Good to see you, buddy. And Rick in Arizona. Rick said he shot Bigfoot already. Rick's a big skeptic. He's always giving me trouble. So when they say that what were those? Were those like 50 cal rifle? Were they 50 caliber Hawkins, or what were they back in then? 1920s.
No. It was. Now I got to tell you, Dan. It sounds like you're much more. You're much better as a gun guy than I am. I don't know. I don't own a gun.
Mark. I'm a bow hunter. I stink at guns. That's why I'm a bow hunter. I bow hunt everything. But I didn't know if they were like a 50 cal or.
No, not at all. Fred Beck had a 30-30 Winchester.
Okay.
Leroy Smith had a 30-something Remington.
Okay.
And so it was not. These were not grizzly bear guns at all.
Okay. So they didn't have like a Sharps rifle, or like I think a Sharps is a big caliber gun too. If you get out of shotguns and 9 mils and 44 mags, guys, I get lost pretty quick. So.
I've learned a lot, but now that from what I understand, this was just essentially just like small game rifles, because these guys were up there. These guys were still working their regular job.
Right.
The gold mine was not a full-time thing. They still had to go back into town to make money for their family, and so they would stay up there and pack it in tools and food. But on occasion, they had the chance to shoot something, at least for a little bit of food.
Yeah.
But they weren't. They weren't trying to take down like large game by.
So they would take a black-tailed deer or something like that for camp food and stuff. Well, they got grizzly bears up there though. They probably had to have something for the bears for protection.
No grizzlies.
No grizzly up there.
No grizzlies. The worst it gets is just black bear.
Okay.
And black bear are pretty darn mellow.
Yeah.
They're pretty terrifying. So and also it's way up at the timberline, and there's not a ton of water up there. So it's not until you get about 1,500 feet further down in elevation where you start to get greenery and you start to get water, and that's where all the bears hang out.
Okay.
What you get up there are like marmots, mountain goat, that kind of thing. So, and occasional deer or elk kind
Yeah.
of thing. So,
Well, you got mountain lions.
yeah, you do. Yeah, you bet. Yeah,
Yeah.
there is cougar up there.
Yeah. Yep. So they noticed they found a track, and then I mean, was anything missing? I mean, did they notice things that were, did they get stuff moved around on them, or did they see where somebody was coming in there messing with anything before they started shooting at them, or did
No.
they just saw one and they started shooting?
Well, they just saw one. It was. I think a lot of it had to do with Marion Smith. The one of the elders gave with fever. These guys, I hate to use the term, but these guys were mountain men.
No, that's
They
okay. That's all right to use that
they
term.
they had grown up in the age of big timber up here in the Pacific Northwest, and they had been in the mountains all of their entire lives, hauling out these huge monsters of 10-foot diameter Douglas fir trees. And so Marion Smith and the rest of the crew, they had pretty much seen and hunted and fished all over the mountains up there. And they weren't easily spooked, but there was something about what had happened prior that did spook Marion Smith a lot. And he was very, very concerned. And so when things started happening prior to that Thursday, he was concerned enough where he ordered the rest of the guys, don't leave camp unarmed. So when this creature started showing up repeatedly during and prior to that Thursday, they were they were very, very concerned about what's going on. So prior to the attack on that afternoon, they decided, we're out of here next morning. But,
Yeah.
something else happened.
Yeah.
So hey, Mark, I want to jump in, Dan. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll be your co-host. I'll be your co-host tonight, Dan.
No, hey, you know what, Tim? You take it the rest of the way. Go.
No, so hey, Mark. Before they camped in, they started camping in there. Was there local legend, lore, stories about these what they call mountain devils? So did anyone hear about these things going on prior to them, kind of getting involved in that?
Yeah, you bet. The term mountain devil originated with the Eight Canyon story, but there was certainly prior to that plenty of reports from other folks who were working the mountain at the time. And I'm talking about your classic Euro American white guy up there working on bird logging, other purposes, right? But yes, there were prior to 24. Marion Smith actually was quoted in the newspapers at the time in 1924, where he had met other people who had been working Mount St. Helens, where they had seen this creature. You have to note that in the 1920s, the newspapers were a little bit, quote, wild man crazy,
Yeah.
where the word wild man kept cropping up. They were using ideas of the lone hobo, or this weird guy, wearing a long beard, long hair, going off naked and living in the woods, and that's probably what it is. But there were plenty of reports. I should not say plenty, but occasionally reports of someone working up there on the mountain, and they would see this strange creature up there. So there was a record prior to that within the newspapers, going back to roughly about 1894, 1895, of something going on up there. Mind you, this is very, very close to Fort Vancouver in Vancouver, Washington. So some of the Army guys had made reports as well, from what they understood from the local Native nations, as well as the Native nations have their own old time stories of Spirit Lake and this elusive tribe called the Seatics that were 6 or 7, 8 feet tall and covered with hair. So there was a long history, not very well publicized, of this Sasquatch type creature up on Mount St. Helens before 1924.
Need to say hi to Jeff Knutson and Hoyt out there on the East Coast. How you doing, guys? Good to see you. Jeff's up in Iowa, so thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you. What about the Native Americans in that area, Mark? I mean, from all the research and guests and stuff, Tim and I were talking before the show. The Native Americans have a long history with the woods people. They call
Uh, yeah. And the I've never gotten a really straight translation of the name Siatik or Siatich, which is the tribe that lives up there that you and I would call Sasquatch. That being said, the old time stories is that Spirit Lake region, and it still is even after the eruption, is very, very huckleberry rich. And Mount St. Helens was sort of like a central point between many nations. The Cowlitz, the Chehalis, the Yakima, the Klickitat nations. And in time immemorial, these nations would go up there during huckleberry season, and they would pick huckleberries, and they would camp up there during the summer. For the longest time, everything was pretty peaceful, but once in a while they were camping up there, if they happened to have a young woman in the age of like 12, 13 years old, someone going through puberty, oddly enough, a young woman, maybe perhaps with red hair, a young woman would disappear from camp and she would be kidnapped. The story was she was getting kidnapped by the Siatek. And the story would go is that the Siatek had these large woven baskets, different sizes, but they would be sometimes like almost like a backpack. And these young people would be grabbed up by these creatures and stuffed into the basket, and the Siatek would go up and take them off. Well, all of the native folks were like, look, we're done with this.
them.
And there's a peace treaty, and they had to sit down, and they said, look, we're going to go away. We're not going to live up here anymore, and we're going to vacate Spirit Lake and pick huckleberries somewhere else, as long as you can teach us how to weave these baskets. And so, in all these different nations, there are different versions of this story, but that's how these nations got to learn how to weave these specific kind of baskets.
So they learned that they learned that from the Sasquatch, the Siatek.
Yeah.
The Siateks were the Sasquatch.
So yes,
The
and
Bigfoot.
that's what, yeah, and that's where they learned it from them.
I've never heard that story. That's awesome.
Yeah, different versions of the story, and so especially in the Yakima, somewhat in the Klickitat, you can see these images woven into the basket. And I just viewed some of these baskets about 3 weeks ago in Ellensburg, and you can see, oh, that's a deer. Oh, okay, that's a person. Oh, that's a beaver. But when you look, there's this other image that's not a human, and it's this big triangle head, no neck, thin hips, and in those images in their baskets, oh, that's a Sasquatch. So they're paying homage to where they learned their basket. So
and Dan, go ahead, Mark. I was just going to mention
go ahead.
I was going to say, so what we hear a lot is a lot of the Native American and First Nation tribes, they have, as Mark was mentioning, they've got this history of, and in their art and in their, in their pictographs, they've got images of eagle and wolf and beaver, and then they have this other thing that's tall and hairy and bipedal, and it repeats itself throughout almost, I don't say every single tribe, but almost every tribe has some type of reference to this. So it's just fascinating. So go ahead, Mark, I'll pass it back to you.
Oh, no, I'm glad you brought that up, Tim, because there was something that reminded me, but I forgot. The one person who has done probably the most extensive research on this is our good pal, Kathy Strain. She's involved in the Bigfoot research community, has written a wonderful book, and she has noted that almost every native nation within the main continental United States does have a story, and some sort of story that is a ogre, that's an ogre woman, that's a monster in the woods resembling Sasquatch. And a lot of this has come down through imagery, through old stories passed on, but through a lot of imagery. You can see these stories and this imagery in so many of the native nations from East Coast to West Coast.
Yeah, I was talking to a couple of researchers a couple of weeks ago, guys, and they said every Native American tribe has a name for Bigfoot or Sasquatch in their language.
That is true, Dan. And what you opened up the show with, at least here in the Pacific Northwest, and let's say the West Coast,
Uh-huh.
a lot of the time this is translated into stick people or rock people,
Uh-huh.
because that's what they do. They throw sticks and rocks to try to like scare you and make you go away. That's often the way it translates.
Yeah, that's crazy. Hey, I got to take a real quick break, guys. It'll be about 3 or 4 minutes, and we'll come back, and then we'll get into the night of the attack. Mark, you're a surveyor by trade, so when we conclude with the trade, I want to ask you about. I'm sure you've been running around the mountains and stuff up there. I'd love to hear and see, and just from your own perspective, what you've been seeing, and what if you went. Have you been to the site where the cabin was?
Actually, yeah, we can come up, we can like detail that on the break. But yeah, it was 2013 where I would say humbly I refound the site.
Okay. Okay. Okay, we'll pick that up when we come back. It's the Outdoor Call Radio Network. It's Unknown Files. My guest is Marc Myrsell and Tim Halloran from the Bigfoot Influencers. We'll be right back with the rest of the story of Ape Canyon right here on the Outdoor Call Radio Network.
In these times when a lot of us are working from home, it's even more important to make sure your home is the right temperature and comfortable. Now is a great time to call the experts at Wyckoff Heating and Cooling at 287-6000 to schedule a check on your current heating and cooling systems.
Wait till you hear about this cabin attack.
Family issues? A Honeywell dehumidifier system installed with your AC heating system can solve that issue right away. Wyckoff Heating and Cooling is a family-owned and operated business that has been serving Iowa residents and businesses for over 70 years. They offer 24-hour service and programs like the Peace of Mind Plan for less than $15 a month. So if you want more time on the water or in the woods this year, please call the folks at Wyckoff Heating and Cooling for any of your home or business heating and cooling needs. One call to Wyckoff Heating and Cooling will bring you peace of mind under your roof every day.
Whether it's camping, hunting, or fishing, you want your camping setup to be easy and your stay as comfortable as possible. Camprite has been helping folks enjoy
about
the
2 more, guys.
as problem-free as possible since 1999. Camprite employees are outdoor enthusiasts that use and design each product to make sure your adventures are ones you'll want to remember. They carry great tents like the original tent cot that started it all. This fully enclosed, off-the-ground sleep shelter combines the comfort of a standard sleeping cot with the added protection of a tent. Camprite features
That's all right,
several
Russell.
models of tent cot units, including single and double
You're
units.
coming in at a
They
great
also
time.
specialize in sleeping
You can always go
bags,
back and
camping tables,
listen
cooking
again.
prep units, chairs, and other fine quality outdoor products. With over 17 years of field testing, great outdoor gear products, Camprite is the right choice to make adventures not only comfortable, but also carefree. Check out all these Camprite products at your local Sportsman's Warehouse or anytime on the web at camprite.com. That's camprite with a K.com.
You're heading out on your morning hunt well before sunrise, so you can stay undetected from that giant you've been chasing all season. Wouldn't it be nice to know exactly where your stand or blind location is without letting anyone know where you're at walking in? Have you ever heard of Onyx? Onyx is one of the most important pieces of hunting gear that you can use and always have with you. The Onyx Hunt app allows you not only to get from your truck to your hunting spots, it also allows you to mark and save your parking spots, scrapes, food plots, rub lines, or some possible next stand locations. The Onyx Hunt app is also a great way to see your property and know where you stand. Onyx is a mobile app that you can take anywhere. It's recognized by game wardens all around the country as a valuable hunting tool. Raven's coming down here looking for me. If you are and have the ability to save information that will help you be a better hunter, go download the Onyx Hunt app at your app store today. Heading on your next adventure and looking for some snacks to take? Why not pack a snack that tastes great, gives you protein, and is easy to pack? Have you heard of Soldier Boy beef jerky? Soldier Boy jerky is slow smoked in small batches to ensure generous, tender morsels that taste outstanding. Soldier Boy beef jerky offers the following flavors: sweet heat, original, maple, or peppered flavors that will satisfy you all day in the field. Soldier Boy Beef Jerky is veteran-owned and proud supporters of the Canines for Warrior Foundation. They also donate to troops that are deployed serving our country. So next time you're looking for snacks from home or on your next outdoor adventure, please remember to reach for some Soldier Boy Beef Jerky, available at Sportsman's Warehouse. Soldier Boy Beef Jerky, outstanding taste that keeps you satisfied in the field. For more information, please check us out online at www.sbjerky.com.
Yeah, my Lord, watch me sway. Darkness comes and we are ready, hoping for the light of day. Down into the river.
All right, welcome back to Unknown Files, case number 16, Ape Canyon. I got Tim and Marc on. We're talking about the 1924 attack. Guys, you still there? You make it through that break okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hungry though, Dan. I want some of that beef jerky now.
Hey, I'm just telling you right now, I can tell you this, I hate to say this, but actually Bigfoot prefers Soldier Boy jerky.
Soldier Boy Beef Jerky.
Yep. Parsnickety Sasquatches prefer it 3-1.
Okay.
There you go. All right, so Marc, you're a surveyor by trade. I don't want to get into the attack yet and the aftermath. I want to save that for the end. So you were out there in 2013. How did you find where this was?
Well, the thing is that I know we're short on time, so I'm
No,
not
we got 20-something minutes, so we're good.
Okay. Well, it's going to take me longer than that.
Oh, come on, Marc. Come on, Marc.
You need a lot longer. You need a 4-hour show, Dan. The thing about okay, very very briefly, hopefully 45 seconds. The thing about land surveying is that if you own a piece of property, you call your land surveyor, and it's like, where are my property corners? Because that's what land surveyors do.
Mm-hmm.
The very first thing a land surveyor does is they look into the document record. What has happened to your property? What surveying has taken place before? What's happened with your property? Because land surveyors need to know what surveying has taken place. So you have that document research. Then land surveyors go out and they do the field research in order to look for those old iron pipes that were set by a surveyor 100 years ago. So it's this interesting combination of document research and then field research, measuring between all that and trying to make sense out of it, right?
Right.
And so that's what I do. And unfortunately, it's coupled with Dan and Tim, you and I growing up in like this age of like Kolchak the Night Stalker searching.
Yeah.
Of the old stories of like, well, hey, is any of that still around? Maybe, maybe not. So when I got into researching the Ape Canyon story, even though I had heard about it since I was a kid, I started as a land surveyor. I started doing all this document research, researching the 1924 Ape Canyon story. And then I realized that even though there wasn't a specific map or specific directions as to where this mine and cabin were in 1924, that there were some clues as to where it could have been. And at the time, I had kind of isolated it into like this half-mile by quarter-mile area on Mount St. Helens. And I realized that even though the mountain blew up in 1980, Mount St. Helens, I realized that this area where potentially the cabin and mine could have been, could have very well have survived the eruption. And so, let's see, it was about 2011. I started going up there and just started looking. I made my way up Thomas Butte and down the other side and started looking, poking around little by little. And it was in 2013 where I actually made it down and I found solid evidence of the foundation of the cabin and stuff that miners had left behind. And at that time, it was a dream. it was a dream moment where it's like, this can't be real, but I realized that, yeah, I had found the foundation of the cabin that had been lost for about a few years.
That's awesome. So, I mean, and you know, the trees and stuff, you know, these are big trees. So it's not like a little flat 2x4 cabin. These are really well built cabins, right?
The cabin was about 10 feet by 20 feet or so. And what led me to that, it was within about 15 minutes of realizing I was about there, was that I was able to find the stumps that had been cut down in order to build the cabin. I was able to verify with Rick McClure, the National Forest archaeologist, that this whole area had never been commercially logged.
Wow.
So I knew that if I found any old rotten stumps can last a very, very long time in the woods after they're cut down. I knew that if I had found any kind of rotten stumps in the ground, I knew I would be close. In the late June of 2013, my friend and I, we stumbled across some rotten stumps, and it's like, holy smokes, we must be pretty close. And so what was next was to break out the metal detector, and that's where we ended up finding serious metal in the ground, where we were able to verify and then get into it and find actually underground, only about 6 inches, maybe 8 inches underground, we're able to find the rotten foundation logs of the cabin with the nails still driven into the log foundation in order to build it.
Yeah. Well, since you had a metal detector, I got to ask, did you find any shell casings?
I got to tell you, I probably shouldn't be saying this on the air, but I'm going to anyway.
It's just us. It's just us.
No, it's
the three of us, Mark. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, Dan and Tim and you guys know. Anyways, I'll tell you. My metal detector, which, you know, Dan, you might reach out to Sean Stead to support your show because they're a great company and they make the very best metal detectors ever.
Uh-huh.
That being said, my metal detector only picks up ferrous metals.
Okay.
It only picks up a metal like iron, steel, something with a magnetic pull.
Gotcha.
But we're able to find a variety of nails. We're able to find old baling wire. I found an old spoon right within the foundation of the cabin site, Marion Smith or Fred Beck's spoon that they left behind.
Wow.
But it doesn't pick up brass. It doesn't pick up silver, you know.
Well, no,
however,
it's okay, Mark. I just had to ask. You know me, I'm nosy.
But let me finish my story. I was up there with friends, and one of my friends was like, you know, hanging out, watching us check out the cabin site, and he was sitting there smoking his pipe, and he scuffed in the ground, and he's like, "Huh, what's that?" He picked up something out of the dirt where he stuffed his boot, and he stuck it into his pocket, and sure enough, he showed me later, it was a brass shell casing. We measured it. The butt stamp on the casing appeared to be a Winchester 3030, but the measurements of that casing, sure enough, it was a 3030, probably from Winchester.
That's awesome.
So this was just inside the cabin foundation site.
Okay. That's see, Mark, I love that. That's neat. That means somebody was shooting in the cabin. So
That's exactly right.
yeah. No, I think that's cool. All right, let's we got about 14 minutes. So the creature they either stumbled over the side of the into the canyon, or he ran into they lost sight of it, and then they all went back down and got to the cabin. And what happened the rest of the night?
Let's get the hell out of here. In the morning, we're leaving.
Okay.
And so they're laying there. They had made bunks out of cut fir boughs from the flight logging cabin building activity, and they're all laying there. We got to get out of here. Something comes down. Apparently, something comes down, barreling down the mountain, and it strikes the cabin so hard that it breaks out, dislodges one of the split log chinkings.
Wow.
Between the logs. and there are no windows. There's a single door, and they look out there. It was a pretty well moonlit night on July the 10th in the summertime, and they look, what the heck was that? And they look through there, and they can see 6 or 7 of these shadowy creatures dancing around, going around the cabin. And it's like, holy smoke, what's going on? All hell breaks loose. There is something that starts to beat on the cabin door. They tear apart their bunks for about to try to blockade the door. Something is getting up on top of the roof, trying to beat their way in, and all these large rocks and everything start raining down on the cabin. Like, holy crap. And so they ended up building the fire. They had a small ventilator in the roof. They started building up the fire, and when these things that are outside climbing up on the roof, they end up taking their guns and they're shooting through the shake roof. Like, please go away. Please go away. We're going to go away in the morning. You're going to go away in the morning, and we're all going to go home. But we're leaving. Please, please leave us alone. In the photos that appeared in the newspaper, there were only 2 photos. The newspaper reporter pointed out that at that night there was something digging under the foundation of the cabin.
Trying to get in.
So this happens all night long, from about 9 o'clock or so ish until the morning. This goes on all night long, where someone is trying to many things are trying to beat themselves into cabin to these miners. I think, in my personal opinion, a 7 to 8 foot tall, fur-covered creature, Sasquatch, that could, get between 800 to 1,000 pounds, they could have gotten inside that cabin lickety split.
If they wanted to.
If they really, really intended to. I don't think that any amount of fire of gunshots would have deterred them. I think it was just a scare tactic to get them off. In the morning, dawn is breaking, maybe about 6 in the morning or so. Everything is quiet. These miners, these 5 guys inside this dinky little cabin, take off all their blockades. They open the door. They look outside, and around the cabin, it's littered with rocks. There was a pile of leftover shakes for the roof right by the cabin. All of that scattered. Apparently, the creature had been using that as a step in order to get on top of the cabin roof. Everything is in disarray all around the cabin. They find these huge footprints, and it was maybe 6, 7 in the morning. Grab your guns, grab your tobacco, and let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
The walk back to the truck is about 6 miles to where they had parked the Spirit Lake. It was probably the longest walk of their lives, honestly.
But nothing else happened.
Oh no, because they got the hell out of there and they never went back.
Yeah. So
they never went back.
So Tim, you can jump on here too. Did they go and photograph this for the newspapers? Did reporters? Did anybody go out there and try to document any of this?
Marc, no, I'll let you take that, Marc. You're the expert here on Dade Canyon, so I'm just the pretty face behind the microphone that no one can see.
Did they, Marc? Did they go out there and did they take pictures of the footprints and all that? Did they see all that?
Tim, you actually have the prettiest face for radio, I gotta say. But anyway, to answer your question, yes. There was a newspaper in Portland at the time called the Portland News, and they actually photographed one of the footprints. And by my amateur declaration, I think it is the very earliest photograph of a Sasquatch footprint, and it was published on July 19th, 1924 in the Portland News. About the same day, the Oregonian took 2 photos of the cabin, and they're the only kind of known photos of the cabin. I do have a lead on some other photos of the cabin that were supplied from Fred back to his grandson. And I've spoken with his grandson. I think that he has other photos of the cabin, but I got to tell you what I'm working on this very week.
Uh-huh.
I misspoke. None of the miners went up there except for 2 miners that following week. They're the only 2 miners that went back up there. Fred Beck and Leroy Smith, the 2 youngest ones. They led 2 Portland policemen, the reporter from the Portland News, and they also said that they led up a newsreel crew from the Columbia Newsreel Company of Portland, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is an alleged holy grail of a actual newsreel that was shot.
Oh, that'd be cool to see.
And that's what I'm trying to track down. I have a lot of leads, and people are actually working on this for me right now to try to track down that newsreel.
Yeah, Mark, I don't...
Dan,
go ahead, Tim. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just say, one of the things that fascinates me with this, so these miners, their whole intention of being up there was, on their weekends, was to look for gold.
Right.
And guess what? They never went back.
Right.
So something has spooked them, and something happened, because it wouldn't be just a story, because that's money. They would have been back up there, months and weeks afterwards, doing back what they did before. So that's always like percolated in my head about the whole story too.
Yeah, I mean, if they got a rich claim and they're actually getting gold out of it, why would they stop making money? I mean, I hear what you're saying on that. I did not know. I think the only thing I've ever seen over the years was just like pictures of Fred Beck. I didn't know that they had pictures of the footprints in the cabin and all of that. If someone wanted to see that stuff, guys, where would you find that at?
Marc Myrsell's Facebook page.
Oh, really? Okay. What's your what?
I'll tell you what, you guys. I'm just messing around tonight. I'll post that on my Facebook page. Just use my name and you'll find it. I'll repost that for Outdoor Dan.
That's Marc. Spell your last name, Mark.
No, Dan, you screwed that up. No, it's Marc with a C, and it's Myrsell. It's Myrsell.
Well, that's all right. I'm just trying to verify. Tim was eating tuna, so I don't know if he was giving me the straight dope or not.
Well, probably not. But I do want to crib. I know we're running out of time, but I do want to crib on something that Tim just said.
Yep.
That is an extremely important point. The gold that I've always percolated through my mind as well. The gold assays were apparently good for the prior 2 years. They were getting gold out of there. You have to think, this is up at the timberline where you only have like about 4 or 5 months-ish worth of good weather in order to be up there. Other times of the year, there's just too much dang snow. You can't stay there year round. So on July the 10th, they still had, say, another good 2 or 3 more months worth of work to do, but they flipped. In the document record in Skamania County, Skamania County, Washington, in which this mine lies, there is one singular document in the record at the auditor's office. And what it is what they call a proof of labor. And it's something that you needed to file if you were going to eventually claim this mine as your own.
Mm-hmm.
It was filed by Fred Beck and witnessed by Marion Smith. It said that we moved this much ore and we worked these many days. And it said all work was completed on July the 10th, 1924.
Wow.
July the 10th, 1924 was the night of the attack.
Right. That's crazy.
They split. We're never going back. And Marion Smith in the newspaper said, I don't care how much gold is up there. I'm never going back.
So I got to ask, did the sightings and did other people start having problems? Did they consist of seeing and hearing things out there, or did it stop? Did the Bigfoot, did they leave the area or did they stay?
Well, 2 things. There was a very interesting report, if I remember, from around 1977 or 1978, where a woman very close by to the Ape Canyon site in the parking lot, maybe about 4 or 5 miles away, got her trailer where she was overnighting, got her trailer pounded on. Her dog was going crazy. And what's going on? And she opens the door to her trailer, her camping trailer, and there's this big creature out there, kind of thing. So there have been multiple reports since then. I do have to tell you, that Saturday in the third week of June, it was oddly enough the night of it was that day that I found that cabin site in 2013 on that Saturday, and I swear to God, I heard something. There were 5 of us up there camping up there, and I swear to God, I heard something up there on the ridge line about 1,000 feet away calling. And I had to say, it sounded just like Ron Moorhead's Sierra song.
Really?
Yeah. But then it was all quiet. And then about 1,000 feet down the ridge, there's a second one. And they started talking back and forth.
And that was in 2013, Mark?
13, and at the end, before I go to bed and pull the sleeping bag over my ears, there were about 5 of them talking back and forth all night long, presumably about us.
That's crazy. Tim, the reason I asked that, because, over the last 4 or 5 months doing the show, I've actually talked to a few other people that say that a lot of reasons that a lot of these, they migrate. They'll move from one area to the other because of the food source, or, they'll move from lower elevations to higher elevations during the summer. And I think Mel Scahan, I think I heard Mel tell Tobe Johnson and them guys that. I'm getting part of that from that. But that's why I was asking if they would stayed in the area or if they left or not.
Yeah, I think there's multiple theories, on that. Just from, again, no one's has watched them migrate, obviously, none of us. But there's different theories. Some feel they do migrate. Some think they stay in a closer home range.
Yeah,
it's closer than most think. But what they need, everyone agrees, like any other living creature, they need food, shelter, and water. So they're going to go where they can get that.
Well, we all need that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Mark, I want to thank you. It's been an honor having you on the program.
Thanks so much.
I've been looking forward to this since Tim told me about it. So, everybody said to tell you hi, and thank you, Russell. Thank you, Mark. Thanks, Hoyt. David, thank you very much, David. I appreciate that. If people want to learn more about what you got going on, Mark, how can they do that? You just look you up on Facebook?
Look me up on Facebook. I have a very, very good friend who is actually building a website for me. But when the website becomes available, I'll announce it on Facebook.
Well, do me a favor and text me too, and I'll plug it for you and tell people to go look at it. Yeah, I'll be more than happy to do that. Tim, you got the Bigfoot Influencers book out now. You're working on volume 2 and 3. When are those going to be coming out?
I hope to have one out, either beginning of 2024. At least have one of them ready to go, and you'll have Marc Myrsell's story in there as well once we get that one out. And the audience can find me at outdoorsdan.com. Just kidding. You can find us easy at BigfootInfluencers.com. And we just had a ball here. Dan, I can't thank you and your audience enough. You're the best. This is awesome and amazing.
Well,
I'll second that emotion, Dan. Thanks so much. This was a lot of fun.
Well, it was very kind of you both to say that. I just I appreciate you. Please let me, Tim, I know you'll stay in touch. Mark, like I said, you get your website built and everything going. Please make sure you let me know, and I'll tell everybody where to find you. And Mark, if you're out there tramping around, hey, before I let you go, was it always named Ape Canyon? Or did they change the name after all this happened?
The canyon itself did not have a name at the time.
Okay.
The first record came 12 years later in 1936 in a National Forest publication, and that's where it was first called Ape Canyon. and they specifically said it was due to the 1924 incident.
Okay. Okay. That's
and hey, Dan, I
yeah,
want
Tim.
to answer. Hoyt asked a question, and so Hoyt asked about being a Bigfoot expert and understanding how they migrate or not. So if anyone says they're an expert, Hoyt, they're blowing smoke up your butt, because we've never even proven these animals exist. These beyond the eyewitness reports. So no one's an expert until something, so we have definite proof. But the migration, I think where they find the migration patterns possibly, and there's a couple amazing stories around that. Some of it is from footprint tracks. They've casted individuals, and they found individuals that seem to be the same individual based on people who study footprints, even scientists like a Dr. Jeff Meldrum, and they may find them in different locations within a geographic region over different time periods. And so that's how they start guesstimating or estimating the migration patterns. And then there's another amazing story down in southeast Oklahoma with the North American Wood Ape Conservancy. Look that up, and it's called Tag 7, where they did an experiment. They have scientists involved there, and they think they tagged one of these. And based on the tag and the GPS coordinates, they were able to look at the migration, what they think could be the migration patterns within the season before they lost battery. But anyway, fascinating stories, but no one's an expert because we haven't proven anything yet.
No, I hear you. Hey, real quickly, Tim, where can they find your book again?
Oh, sure, thanks. Find it at BigfootInfluencers.com. There's links in there. You can buy it on, you can find the book on all the big major platforms as well. But if you want to support local businesses, there's some local businesses that I have their links on BigfootInfluencers.com as well. But you can find on Amazon and Barnes & on it as well.
Okay.
Thanks,
all right. Oh, you're warm welcome. Chris, thank you, buddy. Thank you, Hoyt. All right, guys, you guys be good, and we'll talk to you soon. And, hey, you be safe out there. Mark, Tim. You guys be safe out there. Yeah, you guys be safe out there. Thank you, guys. I'll see you later.
Thanks, man.
There they go, Mark and Tim. Really fine fellers right there. All right, that is going to wrap it up for this edition of the Unknown Files show number 16. We'll be back, God willing, next Wednesday night at 7 for another Unknown File. Till then, keep it here on the Outdoor Call Radio Network. If you need to get a hold of me, you can always just hit me up on Facebook or the website, theoutdoorcallradio.com. My email's right there. Until next time, I'll see you. Be good, everybody.
I have had the devil's hand, felt the weight of my crucible.
All right, I'm sending this back to regular scheduled programming. Let me get that going on here. I'm going to turn that back to regular scheduled programming on the network. We're good there. I'm going to say goodnight to everybody on Facebook Live. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful holiday weekend. Be safe out there, and I will see you on Saturday. Thanks, everybody. I really, really appreciate you. And where's my goodnight button at? Huh. Well, there we go. See you, everybody. I lost my button. Bye, guys.